Hello, I'm Bill Monroe, and welcome to 2-Minute Talk Tips. This week's tip, know your gear. Before going out and doing a presentation, it's often important to go ahead and make sure you familiarize yourself with the gear that you will be using. Because once you start speaking, you want to make sure your gear is there doing what it's supposed to and not confusing or distracting you in the process. Different elements of the gear that you may be involved with when you're speaking may include a projector that you need to connect to. It's important to understand how to adjust the keystone, how to focus, how to zoom, even how to get to the correct input on the projector. Equally important is to know the computer you're projecting your slides or other data from, at what ports it has, and how that is going to connect to a device, as well, of course, as to how you mute your instant messaging software so inappropriate messages don't pop up on top of your slides in the middle of the presentation. In a large-scale presentation, that may mean knowing how you're advancing your slides. For example, from a big stage, you might not have your laptop up there with you. Instead, you may have a clicker that you use to move slides forward or to move back in your slide deck. And now it's important to also understand, does this clicker connect directly to your computer and are you directly controlling your slides? Or does it merely light up a signal in the back of the room for somebody else to advance your slides? Are you using audio equipment with your presentation? It's important to know how you're going to get the audio from your computer onto the big speakers if, for example, you're going to be playing a video, or even if you're using a microphone. It's important to understand how that microphone is going to connect to you, how you turn it on and how you turn it off, and also if there are going to be any sweet spots or bad spots on stage that you need to avoid or target when you're speaking. Learn all of this stuff in advance and practice with it, because once it's showtime, you want to be ready to go. Stick around. And after the break, we're going to talk about 5 steps to better PowerPoint slides. Welcome back. I spent a lot of time focusing on the content of your presentation and building your outline and coming up with the right ideas and different techniques that you can use. And yet one of the most common themes for many corporate presenters is the slides. In fact, many people refer to their slide deck as their presentation. But I don't spend as much time talking about slides because the slides should not be the foundation of your presentation. They're there to support you as the speaker. That said, they can still be a very important element of your talk. And so today, I'm going to talk about 5 steps that you can take to produce better PowerPoint slides for your presentation. Now, before I get into the steps themselves, there are 3 sort of overarching themes I want to make sure to emphasize before we talk about making better slides. Those themes are: slides are not your presentation, know your goal ahead of time, and plan your talk well. So first of all, slides are not your presentation, and I already hit on this. A slide deck is not a presentation. I cannot email somebody my presentation because a presentation is something that exists at a specific time and place in space. It is an activity. The presentation exists while you are conducting it. Sure, after the fact, you could send somebody a video of your presentation or an audio recording of your presentation or the slides from your presentation. And before you begin your presentation, you could send somebody the slides you plan to use. But those slides are there just to support you. They are not the core of the presentation. In fact, a really effective presentation should be just as effective without the slides. So don't make the mistake of confusing your slide deck and the 20 or 30 or 40 or 5 slides that you want to show with the presentation itself. The topic and the talk and the planning that goes into it should be what's most important. The next theme is to know your goal ahead of time. before you get into developing anything else and working on slides or working on your main points, you gotta know what your goal is. You have to know why you are going to be delivering this presentation. You have to understand what you want the audience to do, how you want them to change, what you want them to think differently about, what you want them to know, what decision you want them to reach. Figure out your goal. Figure out the whole point of you being there before you begin working on the rest of your presentation. Because if you don't have that goal in mind, if you don't have that purpose in mind, all you're going to be doing is rambling, and everybody is going to be wasting their time. And it's just not worth it. And the best slides in the world are not going to save you if you don't know what the point of your talk is to begin with. And finally, plan your talk before you open PowerPoint or Keynote or Google Slides or Prezi or whatever tool it is you're going to use. Plan it all out in advance. So not only do you know your goal that you already talked about, have an idea of where you want to go, what topics you want to talk about, where are you taking your audience on this journey, what stories do you want to tell? Because when you have that framework in advance, then building the slides later on becomes very easy. But you have to have that framework. You have to have that organization. You have to know what it is you're going to do. And once you have that logical structure that makes sense, the rest of it becomes really easy. So, with those overarching themes in mind, let's talk about the 5 steps to producing better slides. Those 5 steps are: Step 1, list the slides that you want to create. Step 2, choose the right template for your slides. Step 3, stick to the built-in layouts. Step 4, use more pictures. Step 5, ensure that your slides are legible. So let's go to step 1, list out the slides that you need. This actually builds on the plan you should already have in place and your goal. When you're building your actual slides, you want to start with the end in mind. You want to know where you're going. And to do that, go ahead and list out each slide, each step of the path that's going to get you to your ultimate destination. This helps you think through all of the visuals that you are going to use during your presentation. And by listing them out in advance, it also gives you an opportunity to see what other themes and threads you can run through all of those slides. Maybe it's a common type of sentence structure. Maybe it's a common type of image. Maybe it's a common type of argument that you want to make on those slides. But having that list in advance lets you start to see how they all fit together before you start building them. It also means that it becomes a heck of a lot easier to cut something out. So you can go through your list of slides that you've just made, and you may realize that, hey, I've got 35 slides on this list, and I've got 7 minutes for my talk. Maybe I need to start making some cuts. And even if it isn't that dramatic, it's a lot easier to go ahead and cut slides when they're just names on a list than it is after you've put the time and resources into actually building that slide. So this gives you an opportunity to do some of your early editing of that slide deck as well. So once you have that list of slides ready to go, it's time to move on to step 2, and that's to choose the right template. Now, PowerPoint, as well as all the other major presentation packages, support a wide variety of templates. There are many templates that are available directly within the program. There are other templates that are available to be downloaded online. And of course, your organization may have their own corporate template as well that everybody is supposed to use for their slide deck. This becomes especially important for those who are speaking to folks outside of the company. It's also possible that you'll be speaking at an event that has their own theme and has their own slide template they want all of their speakers to use, that helps align with their own event colors or themes or ideas, or that makes it easier for them to go ahead and print up those slides later to be distributed to attendees. So start with choosing the right template. So there are a variety of different places where you'll find specific templates, but what actually is a template? Well, it's a specific design of a slide or of all the different slides in a deck. It refers to the look and feel of those slides. It may be a common background color or background image. It may have pre-printed boilerplate legalese on there, for example, that the content is confidential or it's discussed under non-disclosure, or it may have other copyright or trademark information, or whatever else the lawyers feel like you should be having on every slide. It may have a company slogan on it. It may have the specific company colors throughout it that align. And on and on. There are a lot of different things that can go into a custom slide template, but really it's all about managing a consistent look and feel across all of the speakers, or making sure that all the speakers in an environment are using the same type of thing. And like I said, those could be corporate templates, they could be event templates. If you're not using one of those, perhaps it's your own personal brand template, so that every time you conduct a presentation and every time you build slides for your personal presentations, they all have the same look and feel. So somebody can look at the slides from a different presentation and know that that's one of your slide decks. And the other great thing about using a slide template is that it works great when multiple presenters have to use the same template, because everybody's slides can have the same look and feel. And this is especially important if you're going to start combining multiple people's slides into a single deck. So, for example, if one person works on slides 1 through 10, somebody else does slides 11 through 20, and so on and so on, when everybody's using the same template, it becomes a simple matter of cutting and pasting those slides into one deck, and then everybody can work from the same file. So once you have the right template chosen, then you can move on to step 3, and that's stick to layouts. Now, this is a feature that's especially useful in PowerPoint, and what you'll find is that a slide template will have different layouts available within that template. So the template governs the overall look and feel, but the layouts within that template will be for different types of slides. For example, one layout might be for a title slide or a major title slide. Another layout might be for a table of contents slide or a subheading slide, or a primarily text-based slide, or perhaps a slide that is half text and half data, or perhaps a slide that has multiple pictures on it. All of these different layouts can exist within the same template, and it's important to choose the right layout. And it's important to stick to the layouts. So what do I mean by sticking to the layout? Well, a lot of folks who have less experience with building slides may take a blank slide and insert a text box and then start typing on it. And then they'll go ahead and choose their bullets and put all of that stuff on the slide. But it's just a text box they added on top of that slide. Whereas if you looked at the layout itself, it had predefined text boxes. You want to use the predefined text boxes rather than inserting your own, because once you use the predefined text boxes, then you know the size and the font are going to be the ones that are best for that template. It may have custom bullet points designed to go along with that. It also makes it a lot easier. So if you later on want to go ahead and change the layout, when you've stayed with the layout frames and then change the layout, your content will move around in the slide. But since the slide package already knows what type of content that is, it's still going to look good in that different organizational structure. It also makes it a lot easier for your presentation software to go ahead and organize your content and pick up on what's going to be headings and subheadings. And that can be useful if you're using an automatic table of contents, for example, or if you're using an outline or sorter view. It makes it so much easier to keep on track with this. The other thing that sticking to the layouts does is, again, when multiple presenters are going to be building their own slides and combining everything into one deck, it keeps it all much better behaved. If you've ever had to paste somebody's slides into your slide deck and then suddenly seen all of your formatting change and your font's no longer fitting and your text no longer fitting, generally, that's because people didn't stick to the layouts. And of course, if you later go ahead and decide to change the entire template, if you've used those layouts, that will also translate nicely into the new template. Now, if you often find that you need to add text in places or pictures in places where the layouts just don't support that, you can go ahead and create a new layout to add to that template. And if you often find yourself in a situation where the layout frames just don't work, then this becomes a good idea. This is the opportunity to go ahead and add your custom layouts to your template and to use those new custom layouts in the future in combination with the other layouts that are already part of that template. It keeps things a lot cleaner. So explore the layouts, and there's tons of resources out there online that talks more about how to use layouts and how to go ahead and create your own. So you've listed your slides, you've chosen your template, you've stuck to your layouts as you built your slides. Now it's time to move to step 4, and that's add more pictures. Our natural inclination is often to go ahead and make our slides text heavy. But your slides should not be cue cards. They're not intended to be a transcript of your talk. The less text you can put on your slides, the better. You want your slides to emphasize what you are speaking about. You want your audience focused on you, not on reading a ton of other content. And one of the ways to do that is make sure that you use more pictures. Oftentimes, a picture is going to do a much better job of emphasizing the point that you want to make than putting that point up in text will. You can choose photographs, you can use very clean, minimalistic charts and graphs, you can use other graphical elements on there. This way you're engaging your audience visually in a way that is not going to distract from you as the speaker. It gives you better control over your environment as well as helping you make your point more effectively. So add more pictures to your slide decks. Your slides are an important visual part of your presentation. So when it comes to slides, show, don't tell. So after you've gone ahead and added more pictures, the most important thing to do is in step 5 for your slides, and that's keep them legible. Every slide must be legible. You should never be in a position of telling your audience, "Oh, I'm sorry, this is kind of an eye chart. Let me tell you what's up here." Or, "Well, I know you can't read this part, but..." If your audience can't see your slide and can't easily get the information off your slide, cut your slide. There's no point in it being there. Again, if they cannot read it, get rid of it. You're not getting any value from an illegible slide. And remember, our first inclination might be to think our slides are legible if we can see them well on our laptop screen or on our desktop monitor, but that's not how your audience is going to see your slides. Your audience is going to see your slides from across a conference room or across a meeting hall. Make sure they're going to be legible in all different parts of that room. Otherwise, again, don't bother. If your audience in the back of the room can't read your slides, then your slides are broken. For some very basic guidelines, I generally recommend that slides should never have any type on them that's smaller than 25 point. Unless the primary purpose of this slide deck is to be read at a desk, you should always be using the bigger fonts and using more graphics and using more images. If you're putting on charts and graphs, make sure you're using very clean and simple charts and graphs that show the point you are trying to make. I generally find that mixed case type is going to be more legible than solid caps type. But again, regardless of which type you use, make sure it is going to be legible in context. The other thing to be aware of when it comes to making your slides legible is to make sure that they are accessible to the colorblind. For example, some presenters may like to put contrasting information in red and green on a slide, but many people are red-green colorblind and won't be able to tell the difference. If you are not colorblind, there are a number of resources online that you can check on with that, or you can simply try to avoid some of those different color combinations. But you've spent a lot of time crafting your talk. You've probably spent a lot of time building your slides as well. Make sure that you're going to get your time and money's worth out of those slides by making sure that they are legible. So that's it. 5 steps to better slides. Step 1, list the slides you need. Step 2, choose the right template. Step 3, stick to the layouts. Step 4, use more pictures. Step 5, make sure they are legible. So what steps do you use to make better slides? Go ahead and let us know in the comments for episode 45 at 2minutetalktips.com. And this is also a great time, if you haven't already done so, to go ahead and subscribe to 2 Minute Talk Tips in the Apple Podcast Store or in your favorite podcast aggregator. Do you have any questions you'd like to have discussed on a future episode? Go ahead and give us a call at 650-TALK-TIP and leave a voicemail on the 2 Minute Talk Tips feedback line. Or you can go ahead and send me an email at bill@2minutetalktips.com. And finally, after all is said and done, and you build your great slides, and you know your gear, don't get best. Get better. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next week.